Hello there, UK comic reviewer here. This is a very nice top-up annual from 1988, which actually would have been out in about late 87, maybe September time. This is a very nice condition book, this one. I'll show you why in a little while, but anyway, I'll take you through the characters on there quickly. Tricky Dicky, who was a very naughty Roger the Dodger clone. Beryl the Peril, who could be very mischievous and naughty as well, but she went through a number of character changes over the years through each artist who designed her. And then you've got Baba, or Baba, having to pronounce it, out of Ali's Barber, but I'm going to say Baba because that sounds more appropriate. And there's a spider there. So let's have a look at the book. I'll show you why this is a nice condition one. You've got some more characters there. You've got Danny Tranny, Beryl the Peril, these two detective guys, I can't remember their name, but I'll tell you in a minute. Baba out of Ali's Barber, who's being protected by his guardian angel there. More on that in a little while. We've got Tricky Dicky there. Get who that guy is now. Hungry Horace down the bottom. Fred the Flop, who's a little bit like Fingers out of the Bad Lads in the Beezer. More on him in a minute. These two characters are called Tom and Terry, who are brother and sister who are always fighting. There's I forget that guy's name. There's Island Dick. That's who his name is. A guy who often lives on the desert island. And a few others there. Jimmy, I think that guy's called Jimmy Jinx, who's a lad who sort of isn't sure what to do, so he has these devilish and this friendly, innocent guy advising him. I'm going to show you something quickly before we go any further. Down the bottom here, this is unclipped. Now, unclipped good condition annuals can go for a fair bit of money, depending on what year they were made. So if you've got one that was made in the 50s or 60s, you could be looking at quite a bit of money. Anyway, let's go on into the book. That's usually where they put the name and the name of the person who owns it. This one hasn't got a name in it, which is really, really good. Ali's Barber, here we are. Now, this baby is often, or Baba, as he's known, or toddler, he often wants to get into trouble and have fun, but the guardian angel guy often tries to keep him out of trouble or protect him. Which often confuses him and gets him baffled as to why this is happening. So he's often trying to keep him out of trouble. Unfortunately here, the Baba has got into trouble. Baba has got into trouble because he's unwrapped his presents, and they're supposed to be for Christmas Day, which wasn't very nice. Anyway, down to the next one. Hungry Horace. Here we have a lad who used to eat too much and then want to eat more. This is a brilliant character, this guy. Very funny storyline. Always found ingenious ways of trying to keep himself having food and drink and whatever, lemonade and some bagpipes there. And now we go on to Tricky Dicky, who is the young lad who's a bit like Roger the Dodger. Now this guy is really, really funny. He is absolutely brilliant. He always come up with little tricks on how to annoy people and frustrate people and also confuse them. He would invent things. He was very, very clever and very good at inventing things. Unfortunately, a lot of it used to get him into trouble. Here he's controlling these pelicans towards the end, who decide to go completely mad, and his dad's looking for him, but obviously he can't find him down that hole. Anyway, let's move on. Oh, Kelly and his assistant Cedric. That's who these two detectives are. They are a bit like, in a way. I'm just going to pause the video. Sorry about that. Had to pause the video for a minute there. These guys were often trying to solve crimes. A little bit like young Sid and the Copper's kid in the Beezer, but obviously these were two grown-up detectives. And they would often have to solve riddles and puzzles and find evidence on how to, be like real cops really, on how to solve the crime. There we have the poor criminal in the end, ending up stuck in a drum and taken to the police. Jimmy Jinx, this young lad who was basically advised by an angelic version of him, and a devilish version of him. The angelic version would try and advise him to do what's right, and the devilish version would try and advise him to do what's wrong, but would be fun at the same time. So the lad was often not sure what to do, and would often usually follow the devilish side, which made for an interesting guy, really. So here he ends up getting into further trouble because the devil decides to end up in decides to um, because he has too much fun, and it gets him into further trouble, and he ends up with his nose stuck in the door. And ends up with and also you see the devil getting into trouble as well, because often the angel one would often try and go after the devil one. However, sometimes they'd work together to help him, which was rare but did happen. You've got some mascots. This is a little story here about a bit of history lesson more than the story, to be fair, on how things were done, sort of educational, really. Anyway, I'm going to carry on because it's far more fun to read about the characters. Anyway, Beryl the Peril, very naughty, mischievous girl. Went through a few character changes. Sometimes she just wanted to have fun all the time, but usually she was naughty, and a bit of a female version, of Dennis the Menace, and sort of like similar to Minnie the Minx in a lot of ways in the Beano. Quite naughty, very mischievous. Often used to get into trouble with her parents at the end. There we go. She decided to create so much mischief there, and usually it would create loads and loads of mischief in the end. So we'll just quickly go through that. Desert Island Dick, this guy on the island who's marooned on an island, who would live there and try and find ways of surviving and getting food, drinks, and what have you. Often he would end up with a problem, and he'd end up staying on the island. Video Kid at the Gunfight Coral. This is a rare one about a young lad who's a cowboy, a bit like our Sheriff's an Ape, and the sort of like, because a lot of these were the Wild West, and but this lad, I think, did his own videos. I'm not sure if he's a cowboy or as such. I'm not 100% certain. I have to get other annuals around the same time and have a look at them and see what it is. But he would try and do his videos on different things, and how he would solve different things. Very funny guy. Anyway, Peter Piper. This lad would had a magical set of pipes which would bring things to life. Which would be and he would use that to his advantage, and to help his mates out of trouble, and help him out of trouble indeed. There he's got to try and find a shirt for a wedding. Doesn't like his one, so decides to put some football characters on that one to make it look a bit more interesting. But unfortunately, the football characters in that decide to eat his food and his family and everyone decide to blame him. Because sometimes it would backfire. It would end up backfiring on him. Wizards from Oz. Some guys in a spaceship type vehicle. Get into different sort of like a bit like a superhero-y type comic strip. So yeah, these were interesting for young lads who like superheroes and that, or young people even that like superheroes and that. Indeed. So yeah, it was a bit of a Marvel-y comic type thing. A lot of British comics had that and had their own take on it, and it was all interesting to see. So sort of like they defeat an evil or something, or right a wrong, or right something that had happened, and they'd end up winning in the end. Funny group of giggles there. Different things there. You can sort of see a lot of auctioneers, school of scholars, grab of crooks, set of cement workers, pod of brickies, bolt of prisoners, and a court of tennis players. Brilliant. Pearl the Peril's pet. Now, Beryl the Peril, who we saw earlier, she has a pet dog called Pearl. Even though in some Peril strips, her parents deny her. They basically say she hasn't even got a dog. So basically, Pearl would often try and take advantage of Dad usually, and end up more comfortable there, like in a kennel near the heater, and would often use ingenuity to get there. Here we have Willie Fix It, a guy who fixed it for his mates, like on this, for something to come true or something to happen that they like and wanted to happen or to enjoy, and there he's made a bucking bronco out of a bike. The Neils on Wheels, this family who were in this vehicle, and they obviously got out on some sort of adventure. There's a horse in a boat there, don't ask why. And they ended up going off road. They're going out of control. Here we have an interesting one, the Cuckoo Court. This judge comedian. Very interesting strip, this one, and would make sort of jokes out of all of his sentences and recommendations. Mickey the Monkey, another interesting guy who was a monkey and would often try and do things for fun or try and get into things, and he would sometimes get into trouble at the end of it, or end up with a problem at the end of it, bigger problem than what he had previously. Plot inventions, some sort of invention for Desert Island Dick. Square Eyes with this young lad who used to spend all of his time watching TV, and also ingenuity to be able to watch his TV even longer, and also sometimes do his own versions of TV shows. Very inventive. Tom and Terry, this young brother and sister who are always fighting. It was Tom that would mostly cause the trouble, the brother, and would often play tricks and on his sister and everything, but ultimately it would usually be him that ends up in trouble. Superboy, this young lad who used to drink lots of soup and was a bit like a superhero, and he would end up solving problems, although sometimes he would cause problems trying to solve the problems. Like one time he did a jumbo jet and basically ruined it when he tried to save it. Joe Jenny, this janitor who was basically a friend of the kids, who would often in this one, for example, he would cast a spell on the teacher, and he would what he would do he would basically put the teacher under a spell to do the kids' lines. So basically, he'd get the kids out of trouble. Tricky Dicky, another little comic strip on Tricky Dicky there. Danish Tranny, the young lad who used to have this transmitter to transmission thing, and he would try and solve problems for his friends and for him, and also get an advantage with them. Here they decide to enlarge a great big strawberry, and also shrink themselves so they can get rid of insects and pests out of this farmer's garden. You've got giant sort of like dinosaurs, giant animals. Little educational one there. Desert Island Dick again. Video Kid. Oh, that young lad who did that cowboy one earlier, doing his own videos. Sergeant Kelly and his Cedric Kelly and his assistant Cedric, those two detectives. Quickly get through this. More potty inventions. All the characters are in there. Figaro, World's Worst Bandit, this cowboy who used to be a bit of a bungling cowboy western Mexican bandit who used to always end up in trouble, like he does there. Mickey the Monkey again, Pearl again, Beryl's dog, Willie Fix It again, Tricky Dicky again, being sort of like Snow, and Ali's Barber again, Beryl the Peril again, getting into more trouble with Pearl as well, and optical illusions, sort of like this optical thing that they would do now and again. Hungry Horace again, eating more, no doubt. Jimmy Jinx getting into trouble again, and there we are at the end of the book.